Hi, welcome to Family Sense. Family Sense is dedicated to equipping every man, every woman, every husband, every wife with practical wisdom on family and marriage, especially in these toughest times. This is a production of No Regrets Communication, a division of Hope Education Network. Should you have any questions or need any information, please feel free to contact us on 0772 518 554. You can also contact us on 0754 734 738. You can also email us on noregrets@counselor.com. Right now, join in for insights from today's session. God bless you.
He imparted what? Knowledge of the truth to the congregation. He pondered in his time of meditation, seeking God to guide him, and searched out and set in order many proverbs. And the Pastor Michael, searched to find just the right words. And what he wrote and even shared was, first of all, what? Upright. And secondly, truthful. That is the standard of the calling. And if you thought that is for Pastor Kisa in church, your work is meant to actually express God in everything that you do. Altogether. So we are talking in search for meaning, so plain, so clear, that it is unmixed. So when we get to counting the costs, I want to deal with this business of counting. You know counting? When you think of counting, what do you think? Math, isn't it? Okay, Genesis chapter 1. I will tell you about the beginning of math. Genesis chapter 1, so that we see where counted began from and what was first counted. In the beginning, Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 to verse 3 is enough, maybe up to verse 5. It says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, let there be what? Light. And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called what? Night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. What are we counting? Day. That was the first counting ever done. And when you count a day, I want to look at Psalm 90. We are counting what? Days. The counting, we are, first of all, the concept of what? Counting. We want to put it in true and proper perspective. Psalm 90. Verse 10 up to verse 12. The length of Stephen Barungi's days might come up to 70 years. I want to figure you yourself, figure yourself out when you are 70. How will you look like? The length of Stephen Barungi's days is 70 years. And if he really has strength within him, there will be 80. Now when you look at an 80-year-old, you you probably think he's going to begin going to nursery school, right? Is that so? And one, the man has finished probably. We expect you to have finished whatever you were called to do. By about there, you are probably, your body is even too tired. And the truth is, it is real whether you want it or you look this way or this way. You will age as long as Jesus Christ hasn't come back, or you die earlier. If you pick this and just merely hear the words, we miss it. But the meaning is that now you get a 70, figure yourself out when you are 70. Or, okay, get an example of a 70-year-old person and what they will achieve in a day just by bodily strength. And every day that passes, you and I become older, whether you want it or not. Okay? And what does he say? The length of our days is 70 years, or 80 if we have strength. Yet their span is but trouble and what? Sorrow. For they quickly pass, and we fly away. No, not flying away. We die. That scares. Who knows the power of your anger? For your wrath is as great as the fear that is due to you. But this is what he says. Teach us to number our days aright, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Another way to share it, let us learn to count the days we have every single day that passes. If you learn from God, he would not end a day until he has checked, what have I done? How have I used the time God has given me today? What have I done? What have I achieved in the Lord's purpose for my life? That's a good question. That's numbering days aright. And if you are going to do it very, very well, you might better pick even Ecclesiastes chapter 8 along with it. Chapter 8, verse 5 to verse 6. It says, whoever obeys his command will come to no harm, and the wise heart will know the proper time and procedure. Whoever obeys his commands will come to no harm. When we choose to obey the command of the Lord, amidst whatever is troubling, the turmoil of everything else, you remain unharmed amidst what appears to be a dangerous world. And what does he say? And the wise heart will know the proper time and procedure. Verse 6, for there is a proper time and a procedure for every matter. But when we don't understand that, we end up being dominated by what? Misery. Misery will weigh us down when we don't know the proper time and procedure of any matter. Whether it is running a business or growing food or pastoring or whatever it is, even caring for our children, there is a proper time and a proper procedure. And you realize when we count days, we are actually counting time. We are counting what? Time. And if you don't realize what it means to count time, I want to tell you and share this with you. Let me ask a simple question. How many days old are you? How many days old are you? That's a question that should be. We are used to bundling up. But how many days old are you? Sometimes we never bother about these things. But if you are going to count, what? Your days are right. That is the first and elementary mathematics one should always be doing. What was the first thing God counted? That is it. And that's why in kindergarten, now many of us don't remember our kindergarten times. But one of the first concepts they teach, how many days make a week? 7 days make a week. How many days make a week? 7 days make a week. Mention them. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 7 days make a week. But all we do is to just make them feel interesting without planting the concept of time and utilizing time. So how many months make a mention them. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. 12 months make it. It's just to sound interesting, but that is a concept of time taught at nursery school. And we leave it there, we continue. And then we are always late for appointments. We are late at paying rent for the house we sleep in. We are late at what? And that is a big sickness. We think keeping time is muzunguish. No, it is very godly. In fact, I don't want even to keep time muzungu way, because I might end up selling all my time and I end up stressed. John 7, verse 6. What does he say? We should get to these things. Even the Lord Jesus Christ himself was very emphatic on these matters. I hope we are reading the same Bible. John 7. John chapter 7, verse 1 to verse 6. After this, Jesus went around in where? Galilee. Doing what? Good. Purposely staying away from Judea, because the Jews there were waiting to take his what? Nothing he did without being very purposeful. How many things do you do without very clear purpose why you do them? And listen to this purposeful person. When others observed his life, but when the Jewish feast of the tabernacles was near, Jesus' brothers say to him, these are the guys who were always walking around him, you ought to leave here and go to Judea, so that your disciples may see the miracles you do. No one who wants to become a public figure, no one who wants to become a celeb acts in secret. To them they were looking at, thinking he was seeking to be a celeb. And a purposeless person will just want to be celeb, recognize, do all those things. The mind just gets eaten up by such things. But listen, no one wants to become a public figure, acts in secret. Since you are doing these things, show yourself to the public. For even his own brothers did not believe in him. But what does verse 6 say? Jesus therefore told them, the right time for me has not yet done what? Come. For you, any time is right. You can do anything anytime, any way. And many of us live like that. And that is not healthy for anyone. We should be very purposeful in how we live life, how we manage our every single day. So if you want to understand how many days old you are, actually you can even count how many hours old you are if you want to. You just guess the number of years, you break them up into months, you break them up into days, and you break them up into hours if you want to. And you will have the answer for yourself. Do I need to do that math for you? No. And that should be an everyday math.
Remember that you're engaged in a Family Sense gathering, which is dedicated to equipping every man, every woman, every husband, every wife with practical wisdom on family and marriage. I hope you're enjoying yourself.
So if you want to understand how many days old you are, actually you can even count how many hours old you are if you want to. You just guess the number of years, you break them up into months, you break them up into days, and you break them up into hours if you want to. And you will have the answer for yourself. Do I need to do that math for you? No. And that should be an everyday math. We are talking about counting. I hope you... What's the cost of your rent per day? Those questions we don't like to answer. But that's exactly the effect of passing time every day. It has an effect. It's counting the what? The cost. Exodus chapter 12, verse 1 to verse 9 or even verse 11 or so. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in Egypt, "This month is to be for you the first what? Month. The first month of your year." Do you see activities being calendared? Everything has a calendar. And we must learn to count our days. We must learn to apply the calendar with the mind of God. It's extremely important for us to do so. And what does he say? Tell the whole community of Uganda that on the 10th day of this month, each man is to take a lamb for his what? Themselves. For his what? Themselves, their family. For his family. One for each household. Are we talking about a meal here? Yes. And a whole. Okay, verse 4. If any household is too small for the whole lamb, they must share one with their nearest what? Neighbor. Is that community? Yes. Having taken into account the number of people there are. You are to determine the amount of lamb needed in accordance with what each person will eat. You are meant to cook food. You are meant to cook kaunga according to the amount of what each person will eat. Is that what we do in our homes? Hello? How many grams of maize flour and beans do you need for a meal? What's the quantity of food you should eat? And you are well nourished. If we don't know the quantity of food you should eat properly, what is going to happen? You are either going to undernourish yourself and we shall end in hospital with many sicknesses, or you are going to overnourish yourself and you end up obese, or you are going actually to waste. That's another heart storming. Hello? So how much, by the way, do we waste in terms of food at our homes? And the moment there is wastage, also make sure you work so much to earn the money that you are going to waste. Because every waste is actually represents some cost somewhere, right? So how much wastage is all around us? Hello? Are we talking about counting? We are revisiting John chapter 6. Verse 1 to verse 12 is what we are going to read. It says, sometime after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee, that is the Sea of Tiberias, and a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the miraculous signs he had performed on the sick. Then Jesus went up on the mountainside and sat down with his managers. You are the one who said that he was a businessman, right? So now I want to call him his managers. The Jewish Passover feast was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd of customers coming toward him, I'm just trying to make it basic. Yes. A great crowd of what? Customers. And you know his product. Didn't you know his product? The product was a gospel, right? Yes. And he was a serious marketeer for it, right? No, we said let us understand the meaning. Now I'm looking at him as a businessman. And tell me where I crook up and mix up things. So he said, he saw a great crowd of customers. He said to Philip, one of his managers, I think he was the logistics manager, where shall we buy bread for these people to eat? Okay, isn't that the logistics and procurement manager there? Now look at the mind of Philip. He asked this only to taste him, but as CEO, okay, he already had in mind what he was going to do. And that is how a CEO should be. When troubles don't come, he doesn't complain along with everybody else complaining. He should know and he should have sound mind at all times. And who is this businessman? He already knew, but he said, hey, logistics officer, what do you have to say? Where do we buy these things? Shall we be able to serve all these customers? And what did Philip answer? Philip answered him, even if we worked day and night, we cannot have enough supply for all these customers. We had better send them away. Wow. Okay? That is Philip. What is he saying? Impossibilities. Verse 8. Another of his disciples, of his managers, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. Here is a boy. Okay, maybe he was the marketing, whatever. Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves. Please write down the word 5 what? 5 loaves. How much is a loaf of bread? Please make sure you do the accounting. 5. How much is it?
6,000.
Okay, so how much is that?
You say 5,500
times 5?
Mm-hmm. That's around 27,500.
27,500. Please make sure you do the math. Let's count together, people. Okay? We want miracles, eh? Okay. And he also had 2 small what? Fish. So 2 fish times, how much is a piece of fish?
Small ones would be 5,000.
5,000. Yeah. Let's be generous. 10,000. Let's just see. So how much is that?
20,000.
So how much in total is available?
That's around 47,500.
47,500. We like math, right?
Yes.
Okay. Look at what we see. For him, he said, but how far will they go among so many? Despising 4,700. 47,500. That's what is available. So let's look at it. They said, have the people do what? Sit down. That is principle number 1. Have the people do what? Sit down. Call it settle. Call it what? The principle of being what? Settled. Please settle. How many things do you do well when you are not settled? And there are so many unsettled people. They are always para, fumbling all the time. And there is nothing of value you can ever achieve when you are not what? Settle. This is principle number 1 by a CEO, this businessman. Next, what does he do? There was plenty of grass in that place, and the men sat down. What did they do? And after sitting down, about how many? 5,000 of them. So we just, is that counting?
Yes.
Now, how much do you think lunch for a person today, a normal lunch in Uganda cost? In Kampala here. How much? 5,000?
5,000 shillings.
Okay, 5,000 times 5,000 men. How much is that? 5,000 times 5,000 men. We are doing the math. 25 what?
25 million.
25 million altogether. So they needed this restaurant to serve how many people? 5,000 people at a go. And 25 what? Million. How much is available?
47,500.
What was the turnover they need to do? Now for accountants, you can begin to talk about using 47,000 to feed 5,000 people. How many times do you need to turn it over and over and over? Okay, turnover. Those others, we shall talk about that. Now, please, let me not talk on the detail, but that is turnover. Anyway, let's continue saying. How is it going? So, they needed that. But what did Jesus do? So, count the volume of what? Need. What is the size of need before you? What else does he do? Verse 11. What does it say? Jesus then took the loaves and did what? Gave thanks. What is he thanking God for? For the opportunity to serve 5,000 people. Big problem. So thank God for the big problems before you. The big needs you have, thank God for them. And also thank God for the provision he has given you. Thank God for what you have without complaining about what you don't have. You know, we complain so much about what we don't have, and we forget to thank God for what we have. So be thankful. Be thankful for the job which will pay you 500,000. It is Mother Agnes who said that. And I'm glad for that council, which is good, that now it is, that council is continually doing what? Multiplying. Those are her words, they were not mine. Were they mine? Complainers get to nowhere. And they rotate and rotate and get to nowhere. So we are laying principles. The first principle is do what? Settle. The second principle, count the volume of responsibility before you. Thirdly, do what? Give thanks for the challenge before you without complaining about what you don't have. And then finally, and distributed. What did he do? And he distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same with the fish. Distribute what you have. That is the principle of budgeting. Budgeting. Extremely important.
Hey, when did you first hear about this story? We left it there in Sunday school, thinking it knows the children's stories. And what does he say? Look at what they did next. When they had had enough to eat, he said to his managers, please do what? Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted.
Family Sense is on a mission of teaching God's truth for reforming marriages and building families throughout the nation. Stability of our nation can only be realized with well-founded families and marriages. We therefore invite you to engage in Family Sense gatherings. Should you have any questions or need specific assistance, please feel free to contact us on 0772 518 554 or 0754 73 4738. You can also email us on noregrets@counselor.com. God bless you. We look forward to seeing you next time.